Hi guys, and welcome to another episode where we turn this car into the Too Fast, Too Furious EVO7. Now in the movie, this guy is rocking Recaros, so that's what we're putting in, and we're also upgrading the sound system. It's going to be a long one, let's get into it. Now this is where we're going to make our first change that differs from the original Too Fast, Too Furious car. Now of course we can't find a head unit that was made over 20 years ago. So instead, we're replacing it with the Alpine Double Den head unit. But we're not stopping there, we are also going Alpine in the front and back speakers, where in the original car, it was Rockford Force-Gate speakers all around. Now we all know the deal, this is Evo stuff, so we need to be really gentle when taking it out. Because the last thing we want to do is wreck the resale value of these seats. On that note, let's get ripping these ones out. Now, if this is the first time you guys are pulling our seat, let me help you out with some advice. First things first, you gotta put the seat back and get the two front bolts that are bolted on the front. Then you get the seat and you slide it all the way forward and then get the back bolts. Now in the Evos, one of the back bolts is actually under the center console, so you gotta rip that up to get to it. Once that's done, you then gracefully get the seat out of the front door, which sometimes is easier said than done. And then we move on to the back seat. Now the back seat has these little clips that you gotta put your fingers in and pull them and lift up the seat at the same time. Sometimes these can be a bit tricky, but with a bit of finesse, you can get them out quite easy. Now the next thing to do, of course, is take out the back seat, which is what I got here. Now you need to get your duga and undo these 3 points here. And then what you have to do is actually lift the seat upwards. As you can see here, there is 3 points that hook into the actual car. So you gotta push up and then pull towards yourself to get it out of the car. Sorry. Now let's get back to Reese inside the car. Now before I put the new seat back in, we need to put the speakers in the back. Now the reason why I personally like to do it this way is I can get to places I normally wouldn't be able to get to because the seat's in the way, and I can get up close and personal with the speakers so I can mark them, drill them, and get to any wiring I need to. We also need to get into the boot as well, so I'm going to move the stuff out of that so we can wire these up, but first, let's actually get these speakers in. Now, to expose the Mitsubishi goodness, we need to take the cover off, and to do that, you need to hop in the boot, undo the screw, use some pinches, and pull the plastic off, which will expose the speakers. Now, you will notice that these are connected from the top, not the bottom like normal speakers are. So we're going to have to change that to make it work. Now the speakers I'm putting in are these S-type 6.5 inches coaxial speakers, which in layman terms means it's got a tweeter in the middle of the biggest speaker. Now how I'm going to go about mounting these things is I'm going to just screw them in. They're on the shelf, they're not going to be bouncing around a lot, so screwing these down is fine. As you can see, I'm just marking it with a permanent marker. Then I'm getting some self-tapping screws and I'm just going to self-tap them, get them ready for the speaker. Once I put the speaker in, I'll use the factory screws as they're a bit bigger, and that means I can screw it nice and tight. Seats are in, and how good do they look? And actually, you know what? This matches the interior of the GTA much better than it probably would the actual Evo, because the GTA has these blue like painted interior bits, and you know the trim's got blue in it here, so I think this actually looks really at home in this car, and they are super comfortable. But now we need to get on to the speaker system, and then I can get on to the front seats. So before we put this head unit in, I should talk about it a little bit more, and this is what we're putting in. This is an Alpine, pretty much an entry-level head unit. It's a double din. It's got a nice big 7-inch screen on it, which is really good. The speakers are going to be a bit underpowered with this. This thing puts out 4 times 45 watts, and the speakers are 80 watt RMS. So yeah, we're going to be underpowering them, but the new owner can always chuck an amp in, and it's going to be fine. The reason why I'm not isn't because of budget, it's actually because of weight. I want to try and keep this thing as low as possible, so when we take it down the quarter mile again, you know, we have a chance of going quicker. We don't want wait. Anyway, this thing's going to do everything that I need it to do, and it's going to be a great addition to the car. Okay, so the head unit's out. Mate, it doesn't get any better. Look at this jankness. They put heat shrink on. Commitment without committing. Like, they put the heat shrink on, the heat shrink it, but they did not solder it. So I don't know why you would go through the effort of cutting heat shrink, putting it on, wrapping it up, and then heat shrinking it on. Like, it just makes no sense. But doesn't matter, we're gonna fix it. Another thing for you guys who have Mitsubishis, if you have one of these, make sure you actually connect the earth. This person didn't. The reason why is sometimes you can earth them through the head unit to the body of the car by the screws and stuff. Mitsubishis, not a great idea. They actually sit on rubber grommets, so you don't get a proper earth. Hence why this was probably cutting out all the time and probably has done since it was installed. But anyway, I'm going to show you how to do it properly. So let's get into it. Now to help you guys out, I have made a chart here and you can see the wiring from an aftermarket stereo to our GDA EVO7. Now you can buy one of these, and what these plugs allow you to do is they are already pre-color match for aftermarket head units. So all you gotta do is match up the colors. But this is actually not necessary. If you just want to bypass that whole thing, you can just wire the aftermarket wiring to the factory wiring without having any plug installed at all. So normally when you guys are chucking in a standard head unit or aftermarket head unit, you would just use your standard brackets, you would bolt them in, happy days. But unfortunately this head unit here is very small and it means that we can't get an extra bolt in the back. So while we're driving, this thing's actually going to be able to rock, they're going to be pushing it, it's just going to be a nightmare. So what I ended up doing was making some extra brackets, like this one here, just a bit of metal that I've welded onto the factory ones. And this way, that's going to lock it into place and it's going to be a lot better. Now that that's done, let's chuck it in the car and actually hear some doof-doofs after I finish the wiring. So the first thing you guys are going to notice that I'm doing is I'm doing the earth. But as you can see, there's two wires here. The black wire, of course, is just the earth or the ground. And the yellow and blue wire is meant to go to the handbrake, and when the handbrake is up, it goes to ground as well. We're putting it to ground directly because this way, the head unit is always going to give me video even when the car is in motion. Okay, the almighty door trim. What we're going to need to get this sucker off is some flat blade screwdrivers as small as you can get, maybe some plastic tools if we can use them, and a Phillips screwdriver. Let's quickly show you how to do this. Alright, real quickly, let's go through this. So first thing we need to do is we need to remove all these little clips. Now what you gotta do is get your flat blade screwdriver in there as sharp and small as possible and flick it open, and then get your Phillips screwdriver in there to unscrew it. Next thing you want to do is remove the clips behind the little plastic covers, one at the door handle and one where the handrest is. The next thing you want to do is go around and pull off the door trim where they have plastic clips. Don't yank on it too hard because the last thing you want to do is break your door. Then you want to move back to your door handle once it's all loose and you want to slide that. These Evo door handles, they actually slide in with some clips, so you gotta slide them out so you can make it loose. And then what I like to do is I like to poke it through the hole. Then once you get your door off, remember to undo the wiring and then you're home free. So we've had some issues with the tweeters, get them into the factory position. Now, as you can see, this is the standard tweeter and it has a bolt on the back and it bolted straight in. Now the problem is when you buy aftermarket tweeters, they usually come with something like this that you drill into your, well, wherever you want to put it, and you can thread it. But the problem is, if I put that there, it's gonna look, let's face it, like crap. So what I've done is I've jumped on the 3D printer and I've made some pods. As you can see, they bolt straight in. I had to use a thread insert as well, screwed it all together, and I was able to press them in with a bit of double-sided sticky tape to stop any rattling, and they're definitely not coming out. As you can see here, they are sturdy. They're not gonna come out. Doesn't matter what you do. So yeah, that's done. So now I can put these in and they'll fit behind the factory trim and it's gonna look sweet. For now, I'm going to put away the tweeters and we're going to focus on the actual speakers in the front. Now as you can see, we've got the door trims off. Now we need to put the speakers in. Now like the back, these are 6.5-inch speakers, but they have separate tweeters. First things first, we're going to put the bigger speaker into the door. Now this time, I am using thread inserts. The reason is screws will rattle out. Thread inserts, they're amazing and they will stay in there. Now this is pretty easy to get right. All you got to do is get the speaker where you want it, mark it out, do some pre-drills, and then use this tool to put in the thread inserts. Of course, like the rear speakers, the front speaker wiring is connected to the front of the speaker. We need to change that, so I'm extending the wiring so we can pass it through the door frame and connect it at the back of the speaker. Now that that's all done and I've just quickly tested the speakers, now let's put this back on, but you saw me take it off, so... And just like that, it's back on. Now, let's go into the rest of this. Now this is a win for me. The car had tweeters already, that means the wiring is already there. Now normally, what I'm used to is you run the wire from the back of the head unit or the amp to your speaker via one of these, a crossover box. In this case, what Alpine has done is they put the crossover technology into the actual wiring. Now you're probably thinking, what is a crossover? So what the crossover box does is it splits the frequency into lower and higher frequencies. The lower frequencies go to your woofer and the higher frequencies go to your tweeter. The point of this is to give you a better sound for your speaker system. Now the only difference with the S-types is this is fixed. You can change it for the head unit, but the actual speaker side of things is physically fixed. With a high-end speaker, for example the R-type, you can actually adjust the crossover in an actual physical box. But for your everyday person or a pimply teenager, this is going to sound awesome. Alright, let's test the speakers before I put the rest of the trim back on. So let's try this one.
Welcome to Jimmy Desmond's sound check. We'll begin with left.
Yep.
Left.
Yep, it's working on left.
Right. Right. Right.
It's working.
Then we'll continue with low bass sounds.
It's actually pretty good. It's actually a fair bit of bass, and that's not tuned in yet. Look, I really don't understand what happened. It definitely shouldn't have done that, but hey, look, this stuff happens. So let's move on to the next thing. All right, now let's talk about these chairs. Now, as you can see around me, I have a lot of Evo chairs here, and I'm gonna tell you guys why. Now, I bought a set of chairs, these two here, off the marketplace, and they said they came with brackets. Anyway, these brackets weren't the original ones for the car, so they didn't come with the actual mounts. So I said to the guy, look, I'll give you these ones back if you can get me ones with mounts. And he sent me this one and this one. Now, if you have a look here, you can see that that's a different blue to this one, which matches the back seats. So these are actually no good, but they did come with mounts. So I was like, okay, no worries. I'll take the mounts off and I'll put them onto the right seats. There's two problems with this. The right seats are both driver seats. That's right, they're both driver seats. And two, these mounts are even janker. Look at the welds on these. They are just, honestly, they're dog shit. And I would say pretty dangerous as well. So what am I going to do? Well, for the meantime, I am going to take the plastics off this passenger seat, chuck it onto one of these, and with the brackets, I'm just going to have to make do for now until I can actually source some proper ones. But I would never sell a car, or I would never even sell these brackets to someone, because it's just, yeah. Anyway, it is what it is. This is what's like dealing with marketplaces. I mean, I will give the guy who sold me the original seats some credit. At least he did supply me with another set of seats. He just didn't check them, which he definitely should have, because Yeah, they're pretty bad and they're the wrong ones. But anyway, that's all right. So if you guys are looking for some seats and you are looking for this pattern, not that pattern, then hit us up and we could probably get these seats sold to you pretty quickly. But anyway, let's change this up and see how we go. Cool. All right, I want to be real with you guys. I honestly should have just packed up shop right there and then instead of continuing on. When that mic decided to malfunction or whatever, I should have just taken it as an omen that the rest of the night was not going to go my way. And you're about to see why. After these bolts breaking off and having to grind them off to swap the brackets, this is what happened. Now that I've put these janky, very janky brackets on, let's put this in the car and we can then move on to finishing off the head unit. Oh, God, it's tight. There you go. Alrighty, let's have a look. Alright. Cool, okay, that's looking good there. Guys, they don't even fit! Alright, so they don't fit. So I guess we're putting in the two auto seats back in and then we're going to have to figure this out. And the guy who sold this to me is asking for these seats back, or the rails back. Mate, you can have your rails back. That is... Well, I'll put the front seats in, but at least let's hear the stereo system, eh? So I just remembered in my haste that I actually threw the driver's seat off the trampoline and then bolted it to a car. So, guys, you're going to have to wait for another episode for me to take this thing cruising and hear the stereo system. But it does work great. I guess, look, sometimes these things happen. Be careful in marketplace. And we'll see how I fix this issue. I've run out of time, guys, so I will see you on another episode. Sorry to land it on this sad point, but what are you doing? I mean, this stuff does happen, unfortunately. Yeah. Thanks, guys. Subscribe and shitty mates, and I'll see you on the next one.